All right, let's just jump right in. Have you ever had that feeling? Like you're running this endless race, but you can't even see the track, or the other runners, or heck, even the finish line? Well, that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. Technology was supposed to be this great liberator, right? But for so many of us, it kind of feels like it just rebuilt the old rat race, only this time it's right inside our own heads. And this quote, man, it just hits the nail on the head. Think about it. The old school rat race? Well, you could at least, in theory, clock out and leave it at the office. But this new tech-powered version? No way. It's with us all the time. It's that buzz in our pocket, that endless scroll on our feeds, that relentless pressure to always be on. So, how in the world did we get here? Well, let's start with one of the biggest shifts, the absolute demolition of the wall between our work life and our personal life. That idea of having a sanctuary, a space where work just couldn't get to you. Yeah, that's pretty much gone. I mean, just look at the difference here. Traditional work, it was contained. You had office walls, you had a clock to punch, but modern work, the office is literally this little rectangle in your hand, which means the workday, well, it never really seems to end. And tools like Slack and email, they've basically become this sort of digital leash, right? Creating this culture where the expectation is that you're reachable, well, pretty much 24/7. And this leads to a psychological state that researchers have a name for: continuous partial attention. Just think about it for a second. Is your brain ever really, truly switched off? Or is there always a little part of it in the background, just waiting for the next ping, the next email notification? In this state, rest isn't actually recovery. It's just a pause, a moment of not yet responded. Okay, but it doesn't stop with work, not even close. This whole rewiring thing has completely spilled over. Our social lives? They've been transformed into this giant global competitive arena. Just look at this number for a second. Minus 20%. What could that be? It's not just some random stat. No, this represents a hidden cost, a psychological price that millions and millions of us are paying every single day. And a lot of the time, we don't even know it's happening. And here's what it is. That's the average drop in a person's positive mood after spending just 30 minutes on social media. A 20% mood drop in half an hour? And the reason why is it's actually pretty simple, but it's also devastating. We've stepped into a world of nonstop global comparison. You see, this is so not your parents keeping up with the Joneses. This is on a whole other level. First off, you've got infinite benchmarking. We're not comparing ourselves to the neighbor next door anymore. We're comparing ourselves to the top 0.1% of the entire planet. Then you've got the highlight reel effect. We're taking our own messy, behind-the-scenes reality and putting it up against someone else's perfectly polished highlight reel. And to top it all off, validation itself has become a public number. Likes, shares, followers, that's the new currency for our self-worth. And this constant pressure to perform, it doesn't just stop at our jobs or our social feeds. Nope, it's now creeping into our personal time, turning our very identity into another thing to be optimized and maybe even sold. Let me ask you something, just to make this real for a second. Think about a hobby you have, something you just love doing, purely for fun. Have you ever felt that little voice in your head, that little nudge that says, hey, you could monetize this. You could start a YouTube channel about it, open an Etsy shop, launch a newsletter. Well, that feeling, it actually has a name. It's called productivity guilt. And it's this really corrosive idea that anytime you're not spending building your brand or creating some kind of revenue stream, that time is basically wasted. Rest, leisure, just doing nothing, it's not seen as essential anymore. It's seen as a failure to optimize. And all of this feeds into something we can call productivity theater. It's like this 3-act play that we're all performing every single day. Act 1, you have an experience. You go for a run, you go on vacation, you read a cool book. Act 2, you broadcast the experience. You post it online for everyone to see. And Act 3, you measure its performance. How many likes did it get? How many comments? Our lives have literally become a performance, one that we're constantly tracking and trying to improve. So you gotta ask, right? Who actually benefits from all this anxiety and pressure? Let's pull back the curtain for a minute and take a look at the systems working behind the scenes, the real engine room of this new race. Okay, a really key concept to understand here is something called mimetic desire. It's a fancy term for a simple idea. A lot of the time, we don't want things just for what they are. We want them because we see other people wanting them.
And here's the kicker. This isn't some accident. It's not a glitch in the system. It's the main feature. The algorithms that run our social media and shopping sites, they are literally designed to pour gasoline on this fire, creating these endless feedback loops of manufactured desire and consumption.
And this really just sums the whole thing up perfectly. The old rat race, it was external, right? It was defined by office hours, competition with a few people in your town, and enforced by your boss. But this new tech-driven race, it's all internalized. It's a 24/7 competition against the entire globe, driven by things like digital validation and FOMO. And it's so much harder to escape because the cage, the triggers, they're right there in our pockets.
Which brings us to the most crucial takeaway of all. The race no longer needs external enforcers. We have built an invisible cage out of our own data and monitor ourselves. I mean, just let that sink in. We've become our own prison guards, haven't we? Voluntarily enforcing the rules of the race using the very same tools that were supposed to set us free.
So this all leaves us with a pretty big and honestly a kind of provocative question to think about. In this completely rewired world we live in, are all our actions, curating our feeds, building our personal brands, optimizing every last second of our lives, are they just decorating our cage, making it a little more comfortable? Or are we actually trying to find the exit? That's really something to chew on.